Are you okay?
What an entrance, Councillor Lukes. That's great. Well, good morning, everyone. I want to begin by acknowledging that we are located on Treaty 1 territory in the traditional homeland of the Red River Métis, and that our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 and Treaty 3 territory. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge the passing of the Right Honourable Brian Mulroney yesterday. Prime Minister Mulroney clearly loved our country, and he left an indelible impression upon it. He wasn't afraid to tackle big issues, whether it was free trade, or the GST, or the environment. And so on behalf of all of us at Winnipeg City Council and all the City of Winnipeg staff, I want to extend our condolences to the Mulroney family and his friends at this time. I'm joined today by a few of my council colleagues. Public Works Chair Janice Lukes, Property and Development Chair Councillor Sherry Rollins, and along with Councillor Rollins are the other two downtown councillors, Councillors Vivian Santos and Cindy Gilroy. The reason we're here today is to talk about a new report that outlines the cost and construction timeline associated with repairing the waterproof membrane at Portage, Maine, and how I think we should proceed with this issue. I appreciate that the media have not had a chance yet to go through the report in detail, and so I'll cover some of the highlights. As you may recall, the concourse at Portage, Maine, and I'm speaking specifically about the city-owned portion that is located right under the intersection, was opened in 1979. It was part of a real estate deal that saw the construction of an office tower and a retail complex at the southwest corner. The agreement was in place for 40 years and has expired now. But the problem is the infrastructure has expired as well. The waterproof membrane that keeps the concourse dry has been failing for a number of years. If you walk through there after a major rainstorm, you'll see where the water is leaking into the structure, and there's actually buckets on the ground all around to catch the water. We've reached the point where the membrane needs to be replaced. And as you'll see in the report that was posted today, that is a major undertaking. Repairing the membrane would require completely tearing up Portage, Maine at street level in sections, and would create traffic chaos in the downtown for 4 to 5 years. The cost is also a significant concern. Repairing the membrane and ensuring that the underground space meets accessibility standards would cost at least $73 million. And it could be much higher, depending on the condition of the concrete in the concourse. With that in mind, I cannot support the status quo as outlined in the administrative report. And I believe that for the benefit of commuters and businesses, residents and taxpayers, we need to pursue a more practical alternative. It's time to open Portage, Maine to pedestrian traffic. And that is why I'll be working with Councillor Rollins to draft a motion that recommends the city open Portage, Maine at grade to pedestrian crossings by the summer of 2025 to coincide with the launch of the new transit network. There'll be members of council, including members of the Executive Policy Committee, who will reject this approach. And I respect their view, and I understand why they oppose this decision. And people will say, well, what about the plebiscite? And that's a fair question. But there's a lot that has changed in the past 6 years. We have information today that we did not have in 2018, and I did not have during the election in 2022. We didn't know then that replacing the membrane would disrupt traffic for 4 to 5 years. We didn't know that it would cost $73 million. We didn't know that we were going to have a global pandemic that would permanently change commuting and work patterns. We didn't have the transit network design, which will actually help to improve traffic flow at the intersection. And I think if voters did have that information in 2018, I think they probably would have made a different choice. I know I would have. Traffic at Portage, Maine is down more than 10% compared to before the pandemic. And as someone who passes through the intersection nearly every day, I can tell you that the peaks of rush hour have gone down as well. many people are no longer working the traditional 9 to 5 workday. At the time of the plebiscite, Portage and Main was the 3rd busiest intersection in the city. It's now the 6th. It's not even the busiest intersection in the downtown. But in a city with more than 10,000 intersections, it's the only one that does not allow street-level crossings. Folks, this is just an intersection. But over the years, it's consumed so much attention and so much energy. It's to the point of being distracting. So I think it's time we put this question to bed once and for all and move on to more important issues, like addressing homelessness, safety, housing, and improving commuting options for people throughout our entire city. Yes, I do think there'll be benefits to the downtown from opening Portage and Main. And I know we'll talk more about those in the coming weeks ahead as Council debates this matter. But to be clear, I'm not saying that this move will save downtown. I'm not saying that this move will save Winnipeg. Again, it's an intersection. But by acting now and taking what I believe is a thoughtful, practical approach to this infrastructure problem, we can save Winnipeggers nearly half a decade of traffic chaos. We can save tens of millions of dollars in future construction costs, and we can ensure the successful launch of the new transit network. We'll now take your questions, and I'm going to, if you have questions that I think my colleagues can better answer, I'm going to defer to them.
Mayor Richard Pluche from 680 CJOB. We're live right now on 680 CJOB radio and streaming at globalnews.ca. The reaction from James Richardson's and Sons this morning. We are in favor of improving and revitalizing Winnipeg's downtown, including taking the step of opening the Portage and Main intersection to pedestrian traffic. We understand that the city is considering closing the underground pathway as part of the reopening of the intersection to above-ground pedestrian traffic. But without time to consider the details of such a plan, it is too early for us to comment further. Tell us about the phone calls that were made to the owners and the reaction there. Are they supportive generally of essentially filling in the circus? Would they like the opportunity to buy it? Tell us a little bit about those discussions, please.
I did speak to owners of each of the properties on the Four Corners, and I wanted to certainly give them advance notice of today's news and the decision that I'm taking. The response was consistent in supporting the at-grade opening, allowing people to cross the intersection at street level. As to the impact on their businesses and properties of closing or decommissioning the concourse, understandably, they said we need a little more time to think about that. So I'm not going to put words into their mouth, and of course I believe probably that many of you will follow up directly with those property owners, but certainly supportive of the at-grade crossing.
Quick follow-up here. You have 4 councillors representing the downtown area, the deputy mayor representing suburban Winnipeg. Often this has been kind of a core versus suburban Winnipeg argument. How about those other councillors? Should there be more standing behind you on this? Or someone like Jeff Brawadi, who kind of led that effort on the plebiscite, is he supportive of this?
These councillors that are here with me today are here for specific reasons. You know, councillors Rollins, Santos, and Gilroy are the downtown city councillors. You know, and I think we have to keep this in mind as well. This is an intersection in their respective wards. And so they're here for that reason. And of course, Councillor Rollins, with as chair of Planning and Development, any work there would have impact on her role as well. Councillor Lukes is the chair of the Public Works Committee, Roads, Infrastructure, and Transit. And so they're all here specifically. There are more councillors. I've spoken to almost every councillor, or my staff has spoken to every councillor. I believe there is enough support on council to open Portage and Main to pedestrian traffic.
There were safety concerns initially. What do you say to people who were concerned about, well, opening up to pedestrians is going to lead to a bloodbath? It's going to be people, traffic, it's not going to work.
There are 10,000 intersections in Winnipeg, and this is the only one, to my knowledge, that where you can't cross at grade. So Winnipeggers cross tens of thousands of intersections throughout the city.
Yeah, but you said no to this since however long you've been in politics, basically, right? So, you know, and since 1979, this has been closed. So why now? And that's a very classic journalist question, but why now here?
Yeah, I think just to reiterate what I said, we have information now that we did not have in 2018 that I didn't have during the 2022 campaign. We didn't know that it would be $73 million to repair this membrane. It would have to be done again in 30 to 40 years. We didn't know that to do this work would require up to 5 years of traffic chaos at the heart of Portage and Maine. I think it's taking a practical approach to this. I think the average Winnipegger, given this information before them, would say the practical decision is to open it to pedestrian traffic. I acknowledge Portage and Maine is the center of our city, important historically to our community. But at the end of the day, we have 10,000 intersections in Winnipeg. This is an intersection. We need to make, I think, a wise decision, a prudent decision, and in light of the information we now have that we didn't have before, I'm saying that now we need to open it to pedestrian traffic and look at closing the concourse. And also, you know, we want to tie, the timing is aggressive to open it in 2025, but we're doing so because we want it to be in time at the same time that we're looking to switch over our transit network to a spine and feeder system, which will transform transit and transit service in this city. So there's a reason and a strategy for this timing as well to enhance the transit.
Can answer this question, but what is that transit plan for Portage and Maine? As I understand it, buses will go down kind of the median of Portage and Maine, and the bullet, like not the where it is right now, but in the center. Mm-hmm. Can you help us understand in how this contributes to that future plan?
Mm-hmm. So this true enough to Councillor Rowland's point is it is a game changer for transit. As you know, in the south end, we've got the spine and feeder route that has been more incredible than we even imagined. If we only could have more bus drivers, but. At Portage and Maine, it will open up, and the details are being worked out through transit right now, but the logistics of how buses will move, it will flow better than before. It will, without getting into all the routes and all the details, we'll have a much better flow to capitalize on the spine and feeder system that we're building. So it is really an integral part of the entire network. So,
Mayor Dillingham, what becomes of the underground then? Is it sold off? Is it filled in with concrete and shut down? What, if you open the intersection above ground, what becomes of the concourse?
That's yet to be determined ultimately. That's why, you know, the early reports indicate you know, $20 to $50 million to decommission it. That's a very broad range. We'd have to get our staff to get some specific numbers depending on how they would deal with the decommissioning and what it would look like. So it's too soon to tell at this point. But there wouldn't be access through the concourse, you know, once it's decommissioned like there is right now. And that, again, that's the city's portion, right? We're talking about the concourse is the city's portion.
What if they wanted to buy it? What if all the building owners said, "We'll buy it from you"?
You know, that's something that would have to be discussed in the future. We haven't had any discussions along that line. At least I haven't been involved in any discussions along that line.
How long could the decommissioning work take, and has there been any study on how that work would affect above ground traffic?
Again, just through conversation, you know, there's nothing in a report. Early indication, 3+ years, 5 years perhaps. So we don't, again, because the only information we have is decommissioning would look to be 20 to 50 million. That's a very broad range as far as cost, but the specifics of timelines, we don't have anything specific in our timelines.
The report also mentions that a request to be made for $1.063 million for preliminary design, engineering, and engagement. Does that include construction or not of the above grade, at grade crosswalk? No.
Thank you. No, that does not include construction of the above grade crosswalk. That's just design work.
So is there a cost estimate at this time in terms of the construction of the at grade crosswalk?
Yeah, that's approximately 10 to up to $13 million is the initial response we've gotten from our staff on that, to remove the barriers and deal with the traffic signals and you know, prepare the intersection for at-grade crossing would be $10 to $13 million. And that's up from in 2017, the report at the time, estimated about $6 million. So there's, the impact of ongoing construction inflation.
And in terms of where in the budget that money is coming from, where potentially could we see that money coming from?
That's discussion to be had. Again, the first step is that Councillor Rollins and I are working on a motion that she's helping with, and will come to her committee. And then part of that will be to ask our staff to look at how this could be funded as well, and to do this in short order. The goal is ultimately, the goal is to get this approved by the end of this month, and that would allow our staff, with the corresponding funding identified, and that would allow our staff to pursue the timeline of getting it open by 2025. Thank you, Steve.
Funding from other levels of government. The Premier, before this report was issued, the Premier said a few months ago that reopening Portage and Main was not his priority, and he voted against it back in 2018. So would you be seeking money from the province and the federal government?
I did talk to the Premier yesterday, say, hey, heads up, by the way. So he did know that this we're making this announcement this morning. No, we're not looking for funding from other levels of government. Now, if I got a call from the federal government, the provincial government, I'm not going to say no to financial investment for this intersection. I would welcome that.
I know you touched on safety already, but I mean, safety was such a huge part of the conversation for how many years prior to this? I mean, what would you say to people who will read this and ask that question, right? I mean, like, where is safety being taken into consideration in opening Portage and Main?
Safety is considered in all of our transportation network, in all of our intersections, and I'm going to let Councillor Luke speak to it in just a moment. We have a line in our budget that looks at enhancing safety at intersections and traffic management to make sure that our transportation system is safer for pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists as well. But maybe I'll let the councillor speak to that further.
Sure. So we've got two big initiatives in Public Works meetings starting now in relation to the budget. We've got a road safety plan that we've adopted and that we've got staffing now. And we've also increased by millions the amount of funding to go to road safety from the standpoint of lights, timing, speed tables, all kinds of things. So like every intersection, we look at the best ways we can ensure that they're safe. So this intersection is lower on the list of other intersections that have higher volumes of traffic that do have pedestrian crossings. So it is an intersection, and that is where things happen, at intersections. But for sure, this is an iconic intersection. It will receive, as do all the intersections, a high level of safety treatment.
It is an iconic intersection, and it was such an emotional issue when the plebiscite occurred. And I'm just wondering, do you see any benefit to having another plebiscite? I mean, you think that you'll have support of your fellow councillors, but do you see any benefit just to make Winnipeggers rubber stamp be yay or nay to this?
No.
Okay.
I'll maybe. Sorry. Yeah.
I believe it was yourself and Mr. Brawadi who brought that motion to council. So same question for you.
Yes.
Fairness, you were the one, I believe, who helped start that plebiscite. Who am I feeling?
So, Jeff, like many things in life, timing is everything. Timing is everything. A lot has happened. There's been a lot more information shared than ever before with this current mayor. There's been a lot more information shared. And we've gone through a pandemic. You see the housing development in the South End. We need to see that same kind of housing development downtown. There's a lot of factors that play into this, and I'd say timing is everything, and I think now is the right time, and I'm 100% supportive.
I won't judge this, but you like this mayor, right?
Pardon me?
You like this mayor.
Yeah, I kind of like the guy, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said there's been a lot of information shared with this mayor.
Yeah.
Like, it sort of, it indicated that there wasn't a lot of information shared with the previous mayor.
We never had any of this information before. Maybe it wasn't all pulled together, but if you recall, there were people in the Public Works Department that left. This was a huge issue. There was a lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of just not sharing of information. And when you don't, and I wrote a big blog on this about communication and sharing information. And when you don't own the message, many other messages come out. And I think now we're seeing, I know there's a lot more sharing of information. There's a lot more collaboration than there ever was before. And that's how we make things go forward in a city, right? We talk, we work together, and we make it go forward. And timing of a lot of global events, pandemic, a lot of things play into this.
Serious note, what happens to those businesses in the circus right now? You've had one that just opened a coffee shop there. You've got other legacy businesses there as well. What happens to them?
Well, first of all, I want to let you know that my staff this morning, while we were coming into here, I have staff members that are going to visit each of those businesses that are in the concourse and prepared a letter for them, notifying them. Don't be surprised when you see this. I think, again, to the question that was asked earlier as far as timing, to decommission the concourse would take several years. And, you know, we care about our businesses. Obviously, we want our businesses to be successful. And I think I'm going to turn it to Councillor Rollins to add to this, because she, you know, as in her role as property and development and as one of the area councillors, certainly deals with businesses on a regular basis. So, Councillor Rollins.
Yeah, I appreciate that question very much, why we want to keep businesses in the downtown. And so one of the phone calls that I made was to the Downtown Biz, a board that I sit on, as well as the Exchange District Biz, a board that Councillor Santos sits on, who is, by the way, the councillor responsible for Portage and Main. I pretend that I have it, but indeed it's something that we, along with Councillor Gilroy, share. That those businesses, like the mayor said, and I want to give a lot of credit today to the mayor, who is absolutely listening to downtown councillors about a downtown intersection that my residents, I know, and Vivian's and Cindy's walk across and need to walk across. So that listening is important. Also listening to the downtown biz organizations, and like he said, his staff are doing a catered approach along with the biz districts to make sure that there's stabilizing communication for those businesses today. We care a lot about them. We care a lot about the empty spaces that we want to see filled above ground too.
This could be for either Councillor Rollins or any of the other councillors whose wards border on the intersection, but we all remember the infamous infographic, the donut showing the results of the plebiscite vote. Downtown Winnipeg, inner city neighborhoods bright green, outer rim of the city red. I guess just what impact do you think this opening of Portage and Main will have on your specific wards and your residents?
Sure. Yeah, thank you for that question. So we've heard loud and clear from all of us here that we're very supportive of opening Portage and Main, but the impacts, I personally believe, will be a really good return of investments, because we want to be able to see businesses up on the street level in that neighborhood, and residents have been asking for this area to be open at grade so they can access and be more accessible for people who are in wheelchairs, people who need to walk across Portage and Main so they can access all the different businesses. So they have been asking for that. We've seen them speak loud and clear in a couple of years ago, and so I want to be able to support them.
Can you elaborate a bit more today on what
If I may, do you mind? I think maybe, yeah, if we don't mind. Thank you. We'll let the other councillors from the downtown. Thank you so much.
For sure. As you know, we are trying to encourage more people to come live downtown, and that is critical. We know that the residents downtown want to see this happen. So this will mean, you know, when we look at, you know, between Gary and Main Street and where Main and Portage is, there's not too many, you know, there's not too many people around there. There's not too many businesses around there. Once we start opening things up, we're going to see a flurry of businesses. We're going to see activity. And when we talk about safety, we also have to make sure that we're talking about when people are around, there is more safety. So when we see parts of our downtown where there's nobody there, it makes people feel unsafe and they don't want to come down there. So we need to bring people downtown. So in order to do that, we need to make sure that we're building a downtown that they want to live in. And so I think that that's what this does. It builds a downtown where people want to come and live. And I think that that's critical when we're looking at building a successful downtown, which we know we're having trouble with right now. Thanks.
Just, you know, as the councillor for Fort Rouge's, Fort Garry, South Portage, Assiniboine, and more, one of the first calls I'm going to make after having this time with you is to former councillor Jenny Gervasi. I know that she and I actually felt the same way about the work that took place before, including the plebiscite, including the need to open Portage and Main, and that no doubt for many Winnipeggers that worked on subsequent campaigns that saw the material at council, this will be an important day. I absolutely am anxious to share that with her as I leave here today.
Mayor, one of your city councilor colleagues was speaking on the radio about concerns with the authors of the report and that it was city planners rather than city engineers. Can you speak to those concerns?
No, I don't have concerns with the authors of the report. We have professional staff, both throughout our public service. This file has been going on and on for years. We've had several reports on it, from 2017 on, since my time on council. So, no, I'm confident in the report that we have, and there's statements in the report that say $73 million initially for the work that needs to be done. But that's not even considering whether or not the concrete in the concourse is in good condition. It actually recommends that we go and examine the concrete to see if even further work needs to be done related to concrete. If that was the case, the cost would climb again. So I'm confident in the report.
And Janice and I work interdisciplinary between the two standing policy committees, and we have an interdisciplinary team at City Hall and amongst the public service. So those reports aren't in isolation with planning versus that's not how that works.
You already answered a lot of my questions, so
Okay.
thank you. But I have to ask, as you just mentioned it now too, Mayor, this has been something that's been going on for a while, of course, more than 4 decades now. People have been talking about this. Even outside Winnipeg, when people come here from other cities, they look at that intersection and they wonder why they can't cross it, how they can in other cities. Can you elaborate a bit more for people outside of Winnipeg, why you think this has been something that's been such a point of contention here in this city?
Well, in 1979, a 40-year agreement was entered into. And I know that, councils and mayors prior to us have talked about this, but really let's, look at the fact that there was a 40-year agreement in place that obligated the city of Winnipeg to fulfill its end of the agreement. Add to that now, as each year goes by, the infrastructure wears down. We're at a point in time right now where we're staring a $73 million price tag in the face, up to 5 years of traffic chaos. At the same time, we have an exciting new transit master plan that is about to flip the switch to a spine and feeder system, which will transform transit, improve transit service, improve reliability, and it changes the way buses go through the intersection of Portage and Main. So there's just, Councillor Luke said sometimes things are a matter of timing, and this is a matter of timing, and now's the time to put this issue to bed once for all and to open the intersection to pedestrian traffic in time for summer 2025 to coincide with the flip that we're going to make in the transit system. And so now's the time.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, I did want to ask this. Is your vision here, as has been discussed in the past, I guess, crossing with the lights or could a scramble be on the table, or is this what's the vision here, I guess?
I'm not a traffic engineer, so I'm not going to, run into the scenarios of what could be. We'll let our traffic division determine that. No one has, to my knowledge, has contemplated seriously a scramble intersection, but I don't know, Jeff. I don't know the answer to that. It's more about, as the question was asked about safety for everybody, pedestrians, cyclists, motorists, opening the intersection at grade to pedestrian traffic in the safest, most efficient way possible. Okay, thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Can I just say a comment? I'm a member of council. I see they got members of council up there.
You can call your own news.
No, I need to say a few comments.
Okay.
This is public domain. I would just like to say that I disagree with the members of council who are here today, along with the mayor. I don't think the mayor has the right to undermine the voice and the will of the people who spoke loud and clear in the last plebiscite that we had, number one. Number two, the facts before us are clear. This was written by the planning department. Mr. Beach reports directly to Hazel Boris. Hazel Boris, the first thing she did when she was hired was to say she wants to open Portage and Main. Last time I checked, we did not elect Hazel Boris as the mayor. We elected Scott Gillingham. Number three, the mayor won with 27.5% of the vote. If he had been clear and open to the citizens of Winnipeg at the time of the last last general election, he would have lost that election. It's very clear. I think it's crucial that council, these councillors up here who were just here before the citizens of Winnipeg, have no right to have the arrogance to say that their opinion is better and more important than the citizens of Winnipeg. We need to go back to the citizens of Winnipeg in another plebiscite, especially when you're deciding based on a report, not from engineers. When the mayor called me last night to tell me about this report, my recommendation to him was to get a second opinion. To get a second opinion. You go to a doctor, you get a second opinion. Buying a car, you get a second opinion. The mayor at that time did not even know who the engineers were. He did not know if it was done by in-house engineers or if it was a consulting firm. He did not know the actual details that he is making a decision on today. And frankly, I don't think that's being responsible or rational. And I have to go to a public works meeting right now.
Councillor,
yes.
costs and
You can't
engineering.
base anything
Hold
right-
on, all that aside,
Yeah.
all that aside.
Sure.
Do you favor opening Portage and Main?
I believe in honoring the will of the people, the voice of the people.
What's your
And that
opinion?
should be respected.
Plebiscite, but what's your opinion on it? Should people be able to walk across the intersection?
Right now, I'm on the page of respecting the people's decision and the will of the people. If you want to open Portage and Main, have another plebiscite. Have the courage and the wisdom to have another plebiscite. Don't have the arrogance to say that you're better than the people.
Is that what you're gonna say in council?
Absolutely. And other members of council will be joining me, I can assure you of that.
You're familiar with the situation and the reports.
I am.
What is
I,
your
well,
opinion? Why
I
don't
just
you
saw,
say?
I haven't even had a chance to read the report. So when I have a
You don't have
chance,
an opinion, you don't have.
I have an opinion that we should get engineers. The report was authored by James Veach, a senior planner, very nice man, a very mild, meek-mannered person who, you know, Hazel Bohr should have had the courage to put her own name on the report. Because really it's her directing this. This is a classic City Hall setup. If anybody doesn't think this is a City Hall setup, you know, the citizens of Winnipeg are not stupid. They will read through this, and they will know that this is a setup, and that their voice is being completely ignored by City Hall today and being undermined. And I have to go to a standing committee. Thank you.
That's okay.
Big mistake.
I'll send you the link.
No problem. Yeah, I'm gonna get going.